And this is Sarah from Mini Me Photography. I have quite a few people asking me how I do my edits, so I thought I would share with you a few video tutorials on what I do. This image I entered in Creative Portrait in the NZIPP Iris Awards in 2014 and it won a silver medal. So I thought I'd share with you today how I did the editing for it. The first thing I want to do is to turn the background of the shower into black. So I'm going to use my quick selection tool, which is the fourth button down on the left. There's magic wand tool and quick selection tool on the same button. If you want to change from magic wand, you just need to click on the button, hold down on your mouse and drag over to the right. So with my quick selection tool, we can see up here we've got plus and minus. I want plus, and I'm going to click and drag at the same time and make my selection of Kalan's face and shoulders. And keep dragging across. This is a nice easy cutout of him. When you find this is a really good tool to use if you have someone who you want to cut out from a background who has wispy hair blowing in the wind, flyaways, and you don't want to make it look like they've really been cut out from that background. So when I let go of my mouse button, we have the marching ants around Kalan showing us what our selection is. Now I'm going to go up to Refine Edge and click on that, and it's going to show us what my cutout is from the background. You can see on his shoulder it's quite lumpy and I don't really want it to look like that. So up here at the top we have the erase button and the brush button. I want to choose the brush button, make my size selection. That's up to you what size you make it. And just above the selection that I've made, I'm just going to go with the brush just to make sure I get all that shoulder. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And then I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to click my background layer back on, and I'm going to go up to my background copy, and I'm going to click on my background copy mask. Now what I want to do is hold down my command key on my keyboard and click with my mouse on the mask. That's going to copy the mask for my next layer that I'm going to use. So what I want to do now is to go Layer, New Fill Layer and Solid Color. Click OK, and I want to choose black. I'm going to click OK, and then on this colour fill layer that we've made black, I want to click on the layer mask with my mouse, and then I want to use Command I, which is going to invert it. Now in this one, he looks quite cut out from the background, so I'm going to, using my colour fill mask, I'm going to come over to my brush, and I'm going to choose white. By using this arrow, I can switch between black and white. And using a low opacity or low flow, I'm just going to brush around the edges just to soften them a little bit so he doesn't look so cut out from the background. For the purposes of showing you this, I'm being a wee bit rough and not really taking as much care as I normally would, but otherwise we're going to be here all day looking at this. And then I'm just going to make my brush a little bit bigger and go around on his shoulders. I think because the shoulders are sort of a little bit out of focus anyway, it's quite nice to not have such a solid edge and to just make it blend a wee bit better. Now what I can do, because I've gone over the shoulder too much, I can choose my brushes again, switch back to black and white, and then going on the inside of his shoulder I can erase off a wee bit where I've gone too far. Just nice and easy like that. Okay, next step, I'm going to flatten layer, flatten image. Now what I want to do is go layer, duplicate layer, click OK, and I want to go to image, adjustments, come across and down to shadows, highlights. Now I don't want to change the shadows too much, so I'm going to pull that back down to 23%, but with my highlights I want to come up to around 40. And with my tonal width, I just want to bring that down a little bit to 40. And then with my radius, I'm going to go up to about 80. This final image is going to be in black and white, so I'm not worried about the colour correction or the mid-tone contrast. And I'm just going to move my radius up to about 50 on my shadows and click OK. The next step I want to do is to just increase my contrast a wee bit. So I'm going to use my brightness contrast button. I'm going to increase my contrast and I'm just going to drop down the brightness a little bit and up to layer, flatten image. The next thing that I want to do is go layer, duplicate layer, OK. And then I want to go image, adjustments, and down to desaturate. Now what I want to do is using my keyboard, I want to go Command I and invert my image. And then I'm going to go up to filter, down to blur, across to Gaussian blur, click OK, and I want to set it to 45 pixels. I'm going to click OK. And the next thing I want to do is up here where we have our layers palette, I want to change this background copy by clicking up here to overlay. Click OK. And it's looking really, really funky, but that's okay because we're going to adjust the opacity down a little bit to around 50–55%. Then I'm going to go layer, flatten image. Now I want to go layer, duplicate layer. Okay. And this I'm going to use my dodge and burn tool. So my burn tool, I want to use my mid-tones and I want to drop my exposure to about 9–10% so that I can build it up. I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller. And in the dark areas, wherever there's shadowing, I want to use my burn tool. So I'm going to just go a wee bit down here next to where this water's running down his face, and that's going to help that water really stand out from his skin. And I also do quite a lot of burning down here by using a bigger brush underneath his chin. And in this edge where it's still a little bit lumpy looking, I can also burn around the sides. But anywhere where we've got shadowing, I really want to accentuate the shadows, so I'm going to just use my burn tool at this low opacity, and I can adjust it if I need to. I also added some into his hair just to give a wee bit more depth to it because it is he has got really blonde hair, and especially with the water it wasn't really standing out too much, so I've just add some more in. I can go up to shadows and just come in around the edges, and I quite like the look on the shoulders when I use the shadows burn. I'm doing this really quickly. I took a lot more time when I used it for the awards. The next thing I'm going to do is holding down and dragging to the right. I'm going to use my dodge tool on mid-tones set at 5%, and I'm going to make that quite small. And I'm going to go over the water where it's running down his face, which will really help to bring out that water falling down. And then just as it's trickling down his head, oops, just going to use my eraser, it's a wee bit too light there. Okay. Sometimes I can be a bit heavy-handed when I'm using my Dodge and Burn, so you can drop your opacity down a little bit if it's a wee bit too much. I might drop mine to about 94%. Now I'm going to go layer, flatten, and then the next step is to go layer, duplicate layer, click OK. Actually, I don't want to do that, cancel that. The next thing I want to do is go hue saturation. So I'm going to click on my hue saturation and I'm going to click colorize. Now what I want is kind of a reddy brown colour to my image like this. So just move your hue slider to wherever suits best for you, but I want it to be this browny red colour. Now I'm going to go to my blend mode and change that to soft light. So you can see it's really enhancing all these shadows and really bringing out quite a lot of contrast in the image. Now I want to go to flatten. And again, I'm not worried about the colour because I'm going to be changing it to black and white really, really soon. The next thing I'm going to do, this also helps with the blending, is I'm going to go to layer, new fill layer, solid colour, OK, and I'm going to choose black, click OK. I'm going to reduce the opacity down, and then using my mask on my colour fill layer, I want my brush to be black. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. And I'm going to increase the flow to about 20%. And I'm just going to start brushing on, which is going to remove this black from him. But it's also giving a bit more of a blend into the background by doing it this way. Now I'm going to go layer, flatten. And the next thing I'm going to do is to convert to black and white. So if you haven't seen our video on black and white conversions, what I need to do is make sure that my foreground colour is black, my background colour is white. I want to go over to my gradient tool, click on gradient map, and that's going to turn it to black and white. The next step I'm going to do is go up to brightness and contrast. I'm going to increase my contrast and I'm going to drop my brightness a little bit. And then I'm going to go layer, flatten. Then I'm going to go layer, duplicate layer, okay, and then I can drop my brush size down and my flow right down, and might make that brush a wee bit bigger, and just get rid of those harsh lines so that we blend in a little bit better to the background. Okay, so we're getting there. And then I'm going to go layer, flatten. Now I'm going to use my curves by clicking here, and I'm going to drag the top right hand corner over to the left to brighten him up a little bit, and I am going to drag my bottom corner over to the right just to give us a wee bit more of a boost, and then in the middle I'm going to pull down to give us a bit more in our mid-tones. Then I'm going to go layer, flatten. Kalan has really dark eyes, so what I'm going to do in this image is lighten his eyes up. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to go to levels, click on levels, and I'm going to bring up the brightness, and I'm going to bring up the mid-tones to around 219 and 1.20. Then I'm going to click on my levels mask, and I'm going to go Command I, which is going to bring it all back to normal. I'm going to zoom into his eyes, and then using a little brush set to about 30%, I'm going to use my white brush, and I'm going to brush on around his eyes, which will really help to bring out that colour, or make it look like there's some colour anyway. Now if I zoom out, and if I click on and off the levels layer, you can see the difference. Now I'm going to go layer flatten. Now in this image, when I entered it in Iris, I used a Florabella snow overlay, which they have on their website. So I'm going to click on my Florabella overlay. I'm going to use my move tool up the top, and I'm going to click and drag it over onto my image of Kalan. And holding down my shift key and dragging with my mouse, I can cover that whole image and keep the same perspective. I'm going to click my arrow to say OK. Now I'm going to change my blend mode of this overlay to screen. I'm going to reduce my opacity down. And sometimes what I'll do as well is go layer, duplicate layer, OK, and I'll change this one to soft light, and then drop the opacity down. I might just drop it down on this other layer too. So it appears that he's out in the water. What I might also do is just bring that down and make it a wee bit smaller. And click OK. And then I'm just going to go back to my brightness and contrast and increase those to give it a real boost. And that's how I edited my image of Kalan for the awards last year. Thanks for watching.